मंजुला जी, आप तो यहाँ है, मैं देख पा रही हूँ। क्या आप अपना रिफ्लेक्शन पढ़ेंगी?
यस मैम। जय हिंद
ठीक है।
मैम।
Jai Hind. Good afternoon to all those who have already joined us for this Saturday afternoon's reading. We are reading Wanted Backbencher, Last Ranker Teacher. We have a reflection here by one of the teachers of Sunbeam Gramin School, Manjula Sagar. And I request Manjula to please read the reflection on the last portion that we read from this book. Manjula, over to you.
यस मैम। हार्ट वर्सेस माइंड। आज के सत्र में अध्याय पढ़ते समय ऐसा लगा जैसे मैं पुस्तक नहीं बल्कि अपने जीवन के कुछ पुराने पन्ने पढ़ रही हूँ। किशोरावस्था की कई यादें आंखों के सामने आ गईं। वह उम्र जब भावनाएं बहुत गहरी होती हैं लेकिन उन्हें समझने की समझ अभी विकसित हो ही रही होती है। कई बार मैंने केवल दिल की बात मानकर फैसले लिए, कभी किसी की बातों में आकर, कभी गुस्से में, कभी अपनी तुलना दूसरों से करके। बाद में एहसास हुआ कि उन निर्णयों ने मुझे दुख, निराशा और पछतावा दिया। वहीं कुछ अवसर ऐसे भी आए जब मैंने केवल दिमाग की सुनी और अपनी भावनाओं को दबा दिया। उन फैसलों में सही तर्क तो था, लेकिन मन को सुकून नहीं मिला। आज जब मैं एक शिक्षक के रूप में बच्चों के बीच खड़ी होती हूँ, तो महसूस करती हूँ कि मेरी कक्षा में भी कई बच्चे ऐसे ही मानसिक और भावनात्मक संघर्षों से गुजर रहे होंगे। किसी बच्चे की शरारत, चुप्पी, गुस्सा या पढ़ाई में रुचि ना लेना शायद उसकी जिद नहीं, बल्कि उसके मन की कोई अनकही पीड़ा हो सकती है। यदि उस समय में केवल नियमों के आधार पर निर्णय लूं, तो शायद मैं उनके मन तक कभी नहीं पहुंच सकती। रोमा माथुर की ये कहानी ने हमें बहुत प्रभावित किया, जिसका उद्देश्य दिल और दिमाग दोनों के बीच संतुलन को दर्शाता है। इस अध्याय ने मुझे यह सिखाया कि एक अच्छा शिक्षक वह नहीं जो केवल सही उत्तर सिखाए, बल्कि वह है जो बच्चे के गलत रास्ते पर चलने से पहले उसका हाथ पकड़ ले। कभी कभी एक डांट बच्चे को चुप करा देती है, लेकिन एक स्नेह भरी बातचीत उसका पूरा जीवन बदल सकती है। अब मैं चाहती हूँ कि मेरी कक्षा ऐसी हो जहाँ बच्चों को केवल पढ़ाया ना जाए बल्कि उन्हें समझा भी जाए, जहाँ वे बिना किसी डर के गलतियां स्वीकार कर सकें, अपने मन की बात कह सकें और विश्वास रख सकें कि उनका शिक्षक उन्हें जज नहीं करेगा बल्कि सही दिशा दिखाएगा। मेरे अपने जीवन की गलतियां मेरे लिए बोझ नहीं है, बल्कि वे मुझे याद दिलाती हैं कि हर बच्चा दूसरा अवसर पाने का हकदार है। यदि मैं अपने अनुभवों से किसी एक बच्चे का जीवन बेहतर बना सकूं, तो यही मेरे शिक्षक होने का सबसे बड़ी सफलता होगी। यही इस अध्याय से मिली मेरी सबसे गहरी सीख है। थैंक यू मैम। जय हिंद।
थैंक यू मंजुला, ये आपने अपने बिल्कुल हृदय से लिखा है, ये मुझे लग रहा है। और मैं स्पेशली आपको थैंक करना चाहूंगी, क्योंकि आपने इस को लिखने का कष्ट किया। और ये आपने सोचा भी कि ऐसे ही मेरे साथ भी कई इंसिडेंट्स हुए थे, और आपने सोच समझ के रिफ्लेक्ट करके ये लिखा है। ये एक अच्छा रिफ्लेक्शन का उदाहरण है, क्योंकि आपने चैप्टर में जो हुआ उसके बारे में जिक्र नहीं किया, लेकिन उस चैप्टर ने आपको कैसे महसूस कराया, इसका जिक्र किया आपने। ये बहुत ही अच्छी बात है। तो इसका मतलब ये है कि आपको रिफ्लेक्शन कैसे लिखना है, इसकी समझ पूरी हो गई है अब। थैंक यू। अब यहाँ पे कुछ
थैंक यू सो
समरीज
मच
भी
मैम।
हैं हमारे। और ये किस तरह से हमने डिस्कस किए थे, ये बड़े अच्छी तरह से समरी बना हुआ है। तो जल्दी से ये समरी हम पढ़ लेते हैं, और उसके बाद में हम मेन टेक्स्ट पे जाएंगे, अगले पोर्शन पे जाएंगे। तो इसका समरी है टीचर्स पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट स्टोरी। यहाँ पे कोई है जो पढ़ना चाहेगा? मैं इनफैक्ट स्नेहा को रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि वो हमें ये वाला पोर्शन पढ़ के सुनाए। स्नेहा, वुड यू लाइक टू रीड टीचर्स पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट स्टोरी प्लीज?
Yeah, sure. Teachers' positive impact story. Brinda welcomed participants to Saturday's session and discussed a story about a teacher named Roma who helped children in an orphanage. She explained that Roma was initially reluctant to teach,
Reluctant.
but eventually helped resolve problems for two children who were having difficulties. The session appeared to be focused on sharing the story as an example of how a teacher made a positive impact. Student teacher relationship challenges. Brinda discussed a situation involving a student named Roma who complained about her teacher, leading the school to ask her to leave. Sunita read a reflection on Muskan ki Shakti, emphasizing the importance of patience, empathy, and understanding in education. Mamta then shared her reflection on effective teaching, highlighting the need for teachers to understand and connect with students on an emotional level rather than just focusing on knowledge transfer.
Yeah, just a minute, Sneha. I think we will need to read through this before the session starts, right? I'll discuss this with you. Okay, so one or two errors over here, which we will rectify. Emotional impact in teaching. Brinda led a session where Gulabi shared a reflection on the importance of a smile and its impact on both the smiler and the recipient, emphasizing how it can convey emotions and build trust. Manoj discussed the balance between heart and mind in teaching, highlighting the importance of understanding students' emotions and mental states. Brinda provided a recap of the previous week's learning, including discussions on emotional support for students, teaching relationships, and classroom connections, and mentioned plans to continue reading the current chapter. Communication and relationship building training. Brinda shared her experience from her training at the Arctic Air Corporate Training Center in Singapore, where she learned about the importance of smiling in communication even when not visible to the caller. She recounted an incident where she encountered an elderly gentleman at the Singapore Arctic Air Hotel who appreciated her smile, which led to a conversation that revealed he was her father's childhood friend. Brinda discussed her experience as a teacher, noticing how students have become less respectful and how the practice of students wishing teachers has declined, leading her to experiment with greeting students proactively to improve the interaction. Welcome back teacher celebration. Brinda described a classroom scene where students were preparing to welcome back their English teacher, Sonam ma'am, the next day. The class created a colorful welcome back card with palm prints and messages expressing how much they missed her, and Roma agreed to write a message on it. Roma's last day of teaching English would be 25th November, after which she would take over teaching history while Miss Ketna is on leave for 3 weeks. The class ended with Roma telling a scary story about the face on the wall by E.V. Lucas, which captivated all the students despite some boys claiming not to be scared. Classroom difficult situations management. Brinda led a discussion on handling difficult situations in the classroom, drawing parallels between the teacher and maintaining phone connections. She shared how Roma, a teacher, managed to support her students after the tragic death of their favorite teacher, Sonam, without revealing the truth about suicide. The discussion encouraged participants to reflect on their own experiences as students or teachers in dealing with challenging situations and to share how they navigated such circumstances. AI can make mistakes. Review for it. Okay, sorry, I shouldn't have read that. Yeah. Yes, please go on to the main text. Is there anyone who wants to say anything before we start reading? Okay, so Tom versus Jerry. आप में से कोई है जिन्होंने टॉम एंड जेरी का नाम नहीं सुना है या नहीं देखा है टॉम एंड जेरी के कार्टून? और जिन्होंने देखा है वो मुझे बताएंगे कि ये टॉम एंड जेरी का महत्व क्या है इस चैप्टर में, और इस चैप्टर का नाम टॉम एंड जेरी क्यों दिया गया है। जल्दी से सोच लो, मैं आपको 1 मिनट का टाइम दे रही हूं, सोच के बताइए, फिर हम आगे पढ़ेंगे। हाँ जी, सोच लिया किसी ने? कोई तैयार है बोलने के लिए, बताने के लिए कि ये टॉम एंड जेरी का क्या रिलेशन है यहाँ पे, और यहाँ इस चैप्टर का नाम किस लिए टॉम एंड जेरी रखा गया होगा? हाथ ऊपर करिए जिसको आंसर करना है, जिसको बोलना है। स्नेहा, आई एम श्योर यू कैन आंसर दिस। कोई नहीं बता रहा है कि टॉम, अच्छा आप लोग कार्टून देखते हैं बच्चों का? टॉम एंड जेरी कार्टून देखा है किसी ने?
जी मैम।
जी। तो टॉम एंड जेरी कार्टून में क्या होता है? आप थोड़ा याद करके देखें कि टॉम एंड जेरी का कार्टून अगर आपने देखा है तो टॉम एंड जेरी क्या करते रहते हैं सारा दिन?
यस मैम, वो लड़ते झगड़ते रहते हैं लेकिन फिर बाद
हाँ,
में दोस्ती और मेल मिलाप कर लेते हैं उन लोगों
बिल्कुल,
में।
वो एक दूसरे के साथ कुछ ना कुछ प्रैंक्स करते रहते हैं, लड़ते झगड़ते रहते हैं हमेशा। एक दूसरे से, यानी नहले पे दहला वाली जो बात होती है वही देखा जाता है इनकी लड़ाई में।
जी
कभी
मैम।
कभी टॉम टॉम एक बिल्ली है, बिल्ला है, और जेरी एक चूहा है, और वो एक ही घर में, यानी किसी का पालतू बिल्ला है टॉम, और उसी घर में चूहा भी है। और इन दोनों की मजेदार जो लड़ाइयां होती है, जो कश्मकश होती है, इनके बारे में है ये कार्टून। लेकिन ये एक दूसरे के साथ फिर दोस्ती भी कर लेते हैं, एक दूसरे को बचाने में भी लगे रहते हैं। तो इस चैप्टर को इसलिए शायद टॉम एंड जेरी कहा है कि ऐसा हो सकता है कि हम इस चैप्टर में पढ़ें कि टॉम एंड जेरी की तरह कौन अपने बीच में लड़ते रहते हैं और दोस्ती करते रहते हैं। ठीक है? Do you think she will consider relocating to Missouri? Sunil asked Mandira, glancing at the cuckoo clock. There was still 5 minutes for Roma to come down for breakfast. तो ये रोमा के घर का सीन है। मंदिरा और मंदिरा उनकी माँ है, और वो उनके पिताजी के साथ बात कर रही हैं। और उनके पिताजी अब उनकी माँ से पूछ रहे हैं कि क्या आपको लगता है कि ये मसूरी में फिर से आकर बसेगी? Mandira walked up to her husband of 32 years to drop a loving peck on his sun-dried cheek before answering, I know you will miss her once she leaves for Mumbai on Saturday. But we have to understand that children have a right to choose how and where they want to live and what they want to do with their lives once they grow up. Mandira pulled out some special crockery from a shelf. Today was Roma's last day in school, and she wanted to make her remaining 4 days at home special and memorable. Sunil took the plates from her and walked to the dining table to lay them on the hand woven cream and brown mats. But she wants to bring Pia home. This is the birthplace of both Pia's mothers, Suman and Roma. And we are here too to help take care of her. Don't you think Masuri is a lovely place to raise a child? Sunil asked in a grumbling voice. He rearranged the yellow orchids in the antique flower vase. He had grown them in his small greenhouse behind the house. Do you think the cream flower vase will look better? He asked, looking critically at the exotic blooms in the fern-shaped vase. तो यहाँ पे रोमा के माँ और पिताजी, उनके घर में पूरी तैयारी कर रहे हैं एक स्पेशल डिनर के लिए। तो अच्छी क्रॉकरी निकल रही है, अच्छे टेबल कवर मैट्स वगैरह भी बिछ रहे हैं, और फ्लावर वाज में फूल सजाए जा रहे हैं। ऑर्किड, येलो ऑर्किड्स, ऑर्किड्स फूल का नाम है, और ये फूल स्पेशली थोड़ी सी ठंडी पहाड़ी जगहों पे ही होती है। सुनील, प्लीज डोंट चेंज द वाज अगेन. You have already changed it from brown to cream and then green. I doubt whether Roma will even notice what she's eating for breakfast, let alone the color of the vase, Mandira said, checking the staircase for any sign of her daughter. Then she packed some vegetable noodles into a violet double-decker lunchbox with a few sachets of tomato and chili garlic sauce for Roma's lunch. You are right. She has been very absent-minded for the last few days, Sunil replied. She hasn't been absent-minded, Sunil. She's very distressed over the deadline coming up next week to submit recommendation letters to the angels of earth to get Pia's custody, Mandira said, putting the casserole dishes containing hot pancakes and scrambled eggs on the table. Unusually, Roma was already 5 minutes late for breakfast. I know I have spoken to the old headmaster of the government school, Mr. Chaturvedi, a week ago to see if he could help by arranging recommendation letters for her. After all, he has been a senior teacher in Masuri for 35 years, but he has not reverted, Sunil said thoughtfully. Don't you know he is ill? He was admitted to the hospital, and Sandra Matthew made it clear that they will accept letters only from high-end educational institutions and esteemed members of the society. I doubt they would accept a letter from an old headmaster of a small local school. Mandira sighed regretfully. She too was looking forward to having little Pia home. अब पिया आपको याद होगा, पिया उस लड़की का, उस बच्ची का नाम है जिसे रोमा अडॉप्ट करने की सोच रही है, जिसके लिए उसे चिट्ठी चाहिए, और ये जो एंजल्स ऑफ अर्थ है वो उस ऑर्फनेज का नाम है जहां से रोमा पिया को अडॉप्ट करेगी. It's just that desperate time called for desperate measures. Roma was running late today. In another 3 minutes, he would go and check on her, thought Sunil. She also mentioned the other day that once she resumes work at Arctic Air, she will be able to help you tide over whatever financial shortage the business incurs because of the loss of the contract we lost with Windsor Manor, Mandira said. I have told her so many times not to worry about that. Today, the tender for Mountain Residency Spa and Resort opens. If we qualify, there won't be any reason for her to worry about the finances on the home front. In fact, we will be able to afford a legal battle for Pia's custody if required. They heard the sound of feet clattering down the old stairs. What in the name of God are you wearing to school, Roma? Sunil asked, staring at his daughter, dressed in all black leather biking gear. Mandira stared too, at the image they were seeing after almost a decade. Her mouth open in shock. Wasn't she going to school? Mandira thought, desperately trying to recall what day it was. Surely it wasn't Sunday? Papa, this is my old leather outfit, which I wore to go biking with my friends during my high school days. Mom, you should remember these clothes. You didn't want Papa to buy them, and when he finally did, you didn't speak to me for a week, Roma reminded her parents, pointing at the figure-hugging jacket and pants and gloves dangling from one hand. Of course I remember, Sunil said, recalling her tantrums when she had lobbied for the ridiculous outfit. Isn't it your last day in school? Why in heaven's name are you wearing something so ridiculous today of all days, Roma? Mandira asked, unable to believe her daughter was planning to go to work dressed like that. By the way, I'm very late today and there is no time for breakfast. So I'll just have a pancake. I could smell them from my room. Yum. Roma opened the casserole dish to take one. Roma, scolded Mandira, looking at her in exasperation. I will eat the rest in the afternoon when I get back, Roma promised between munches. She had dipped the pancake in a bowl of golden honey placed in the middle of the dining table. Roma, Sunil asked again, looking pointedly at her outfit. Simmi mentioned that there was a young man troubling her and her grandfather every day. Her grandfather has come to stay for a month and walks to the Residency Mall bus stop with her every morning. At 7:30 a.m., the road is deserted and foggy, Roma said, taking another pancake and trailing a streak of sticky honey on the cream mat as she carried it to her open mouth. So you want to join the grandfather in your leather clothes to see Simi take the bus to school? Mandira asked in exasperation, upset to see the golden streaks on her favorite mats. The monster appears in front of them on the road all of a sudden and does a wheelie with all the antics that go with that stunt. This is scaring the living daylights out of Mr. Sondi. He's having sleepless nights and high blood pressure, Roma said, pulling on her leather gloves and slipping the lunchbox into her bag. She reached up and took a set of keys from the pegs inside the door. Roma, you can always report this to the police. Why do you have to confront him in this manner? Sunil asked. He has threatened the local kids about reporting him, and they are terrified, Roma said, and placed a consolatory peck on her mother's cheek. I will clean that mat after school, she promised tongue in cheek and walked out smiling. I bet you will, responded her mother tartly, then laughed and whisked the mat away to put it into the washing machine. Whose bike is that? Sunil asked, following Roma outside and pointing at a red Honda bike. Rajiv's, remember? He was our neighbor when I was in school. I met him the other day in the coffee shop. We started talking, and well, I noticed he had the school looking bike. Yesterday, I asked him to loan it to me for a day. So here it is, Roma said, locking her bag beneath. She rolled up her braid, pinned it tightly so it would be tucked inside the helmet. When she saw her father still staring at the bike, Rova waved her hand in front of his thoughtful face to draw his attention. Papa, this is the Honda Sports VFR 1200F, made to deliver absolute power. And don't worry, though it delivers super bike performance, it also possesses the capability for relaxed long distance rides. It is safe, and I will be going a very short distance. It is not meant for foolish wheelies, so don't worry. Roma laughed at his stupefied expression. So, what do you plan to do? Asked Sunil helplessly, watching his crazy daughter adjust the straps of the gigantic black helmet. I don't have to do anything. It is already done. Simi has told that stunt man that her brother, who works for the Mumbai crime branch, is in Mussoorie to visit them and will take him to task for stunting illegally and harassing them, Roma said, laughing at the look of horror on her father's face. And you are that brother? He asked in amazement. Yes, obviously, I am that brother. I will take that road, stop the bike when he appears, take his vehicle registration number, and that's all, she said, putting on the helmet and pulling the straps below her chin to tighten them to fit comfortably. Roma, your bosses will think you are crazy, Sunil said despairingly. thinking what a terror she would have been had she been a son. They know I am crazy, Pops. That is why they can't wait to see the back of me. They have, in fact, found someone to replace me. I'm sure she's another well read, front bencher, and first ranker teacher, unlike an alien like me, who dances up and down the staircases, rescues kids from pubs, listens to their puppy love stories, etc. Roma said humorously. She didn't have to spell it out to him how hurt she was. It was there in her eyes and in that artificial laughter. Sunil stepped back as she started the bike and revved hard, venting her grief on the inanimate power packed machine. Be careful, don't take any risks, he said, mellowing. He had never been able to see his princess hurting. I won't, she answered, before sliding down the tinted visor to cover her face completely. Sunil reached out to stop her so he could ask her something he had suddenly remembered. Roma, did you notice the orchids on the dining table today? He asked. Yes, the yellow ones you grew in the greenhouse? Did you notice the vase holding the orchids? He asked, secretly hoping she would give him the right answer so he could boast to Mandira how she had underestimated his table laying skills. Yes, I did. It was the orange one we bought from Dehradun last summer, wasn't it? Roma answered, looking for confirmation. Laughing at his disappointed expression, she glanced at her watch, which warned it was 7:20. She wished him luck for the opening of his tender, slid the visor into place, and zoomed off down the road. The moment Roma reached the Residency Mall Road, she noticed Simmi walking with her grandfather towards the bus stop. She was talking vivaciously to him about something, which he had a worried look on his face. He seemed to be straining his ears for that terrifying sound so he could take precautions before the stuntman suddenly appeared before them. Roma saw the biker approaching from the other end. When he was close enough, he increased speed. The engine revved, changing its sound as he let out the clutch. The monster is not going to lift the front wheel, Roma told herself in a fury. She accelerated instantly so she could reach him before he had the opportunity to do the wheelie and scare the two helpless pedestrians. She stopped with a deafening screech, pulling in right between the biker and the two surprised onlookers. Roma got down from the bike, pulled out a camera, and clicked a few shots of the foolish biker trying to control his bike. As he swerved, he lost control and fell off gracelessly. When he had seen the other guy in black leather and black and chrome helmet, he had known Simi had not bluffed about her Mumbai crime branch brother thing. Simi and her grandfather stood beside Roma, watching him pick himself up and his bike. Then he walked up to Roma, holding out his hand. Hi, how do you do, dude? Simi mentioned you work for the Mumbai crime branch. He felt embarrassed for having fallen like a clown, trying to impress Simi. He felt still more idiotic when the guy, still staring at him through the dark cover of the helmet, did not respond to his outstretched hand. Well, it was just for fun, he said, feeling very uncomfortable with the guy gloring at him through the helmet visor. Simi looking at him as if he had crawled out of a drain, and the old man staring at him in disgust. I hope you won't use those pictures, dude, he said ingratiatingly, unnerved at the way the guy in the black leather just stared without saying a word. He had heard people who worked with the crime branch were kind of intimidating. It was better to stay away from them. What you do on your bike on this road is illegal, young man, the grandfather said accusingly. I am very sorry. It won't happen again, the fellow said, glancing at the guy in black leather again. Roma didn't say a word. Instead, she took out a small black book from her pocket, noted the number of his vehicle with its dented number plate and cracked rear view mirrors. Then she got back on her bike, waved at Simi and her relieved-looking grandfather, and then rode away in the direction of the school. You have a very nice brother, the young man said. Liar, Simi thought, fighting the laughter bubbling inside her. Yes, what a dangerous and unsocial guy the brother was, the disgraced stuntman thought. He was very worried about the photographs the guy had taken of him. Well, you can tell your brother that it won't happen again, he repeated. After he had gone, Simi and her grandfather laughed so much their sides ached. Who was that, Simi? That fellow in black leather? Stuntman think he was your brother? And how do you know people from the Mumbai crime branch? Her grandfather asked, bemused. He was surely on the way to senility because he couldn't understand anything. What crime branch, grandfather? That was my teacher. It was a setup, Simi said, feeling very proud of Miss Roma. What's his name? Her grandfather asked, mentally comparing Simi's teacher with the teachers he had in school. All elderly persons dressed in traditional white, never someone in black leather riding a bike. The times had changed. It's her grandfather. Her name is Miss Roma. And wasn't the bike just stunning? I loved its contours, which are aerodynamically designed to shield the rider from wind blasts when it goes fast. Will you buy one for me on my 18th birthday? And also a leather outfit like she was wearing, please? Her grandfather came to a dead halt in the road, dazed to learn that the person in black leather riding the massive red bike was Simi's lady teacher. Lady teacher, the times had really changed. Roma parked the bike behind the school sports complex, walked into the restroom to change. She couldn't possibly enter the campus in this getup. They would really think her crazy, Roma thought as she pulled off the gloves, jacket, and pants, revealing a black and red kurta and leggings below. She would miss school, Roma thought, as she walked towards the front entrance. She would miss the lively sound of incessant talking, cheerful laughter, the sound of feet running up and down the staircases and corridors, whispered secrets in the corners, the booing, jostling, jumping, and teasing. This music was very different from the sedate, sophisticated murmurs she heard under the drone of air conditioners at Arctic Air. All right, तो हमने एक चैप्टर देखा जहां पे क्लासरूम का कोई सीन नहीं था, लेकिन ये सीन था क्लास के बाहर बस स्टैंड का, जहां पे रोमा ने अपने एक स्टूडेंट के शिकायत पे उसकी मदद की, और वो भी किस तरह से उसकी मदद एक आदमी के वेश में, एक क्राइम ब्रांच के एक ऑफिसर के रूप में रोमा ने उस लड़की को उस आदमी से बचाया जो उन्हें, उस लड़की को और उसके ग्रैंडफादर को रोज तंग करता था, अपने बाइक पे आके स्टंट्स करता था। तो वो खुद बाइक में चढ़ी और उसने ये किया जिससे कि इनका डर मिट जाए और वो ज्यादा डर जाए कि ये तो किसी क्राइम ब्रांच का ऑफिसर है और मुझे तो बड़ी प्रॉब्लम होने वाली है अभी। ये मैसेज उसके पास गया। तो हम इस टीचर का, रोमा का एक और रूप देखते हैं कि किस तरह से वो अपने बच्चों के साथ घुल मिल गई थी और उनके जो पर्सनल प्रॉब्लम्स थे उनको भी ठीक करने के लिए उनकी मदद करती थी। स्नेहा, is this the end of this chapter?
Yes, ma'am. This is
No.
the last chapter.
Yeah, this is the last chapter. So we have how many pages left? I'm just wondering, maybe we should finish it in the next week.
Ma'am, we are on 214 and we have 250 pages.
250 pages. Okay, we'll read a few more pages in that case. We have a little time. किसी
Yes.
को कुछ पूछना है? Does anyone want to share anything? Does it remind you of any incident? Do you think that this is exaggerated? ये कुछ बढ़ चढ़ के बता रहे हैं या ये ऐसा हो सकता है, ऐसी चीजें हो सकती है रियल लाइफ में भी, राइट? तो थोड़ा बढ़ चढ़ के तो लगता है, लेकिन ये है तो वास्तविकता, जिस तरह ने रोमा ने इस लड़की को बड़े हीरो की तरह बचाया था। तो एक और पेज हम पढ़ लेते हैं। Once she had never imagined working anywhere other than a place like Arctic air. But today she had difficulty coming to terms with the fact that she would never again walk into a buzzing classroom or laugh at innocent anecdotes and guileless mischief, at absurd answers and childish chatter. Having signed in, Roma walked towards the staircase with Rupali and Roshan. She would make the most of today, she promised herself, as she called a greeting to a group of girls huddled together. Something was definitely cooking in their heads, she thought with amusement. Possibly which class to bunk or whose bag to hide. Then Roma heard a loud scream. There was never any dearth of drama in school. Miss Roma, can you please help? Every morning, Jeevan pulls our hair and throws the elastic bands and clips down the staircase or out of the window. Last week, Supriya got punished by Miss Henkel because her hair was untidy. Rupa complained, trying in vain to braid her hair. It kept slipping through her fingers. Roma stepped forward and made a neat plait, fixing the end with a rubber band from her bag. Thank you so much, Miss Roma, said Rupa. As Roma continued up to the second floor, responding to the loud good mornings coming from different directions, she heard another imploring cry for help. Miss Roma, just look at what Jeevan has done to my tie. If you aren't in too much of a hurry, could you please help me unknot it? Shreyas pleaded. Roma stopped and took the pathetic looking piece of blue material from Shreyas. It had multiple knots tied so tightly that in spite of her long nails, she wasn't able to undo them all. I will get punished by Miss Henkel again, Shreyas lamented sadly. Where is Jeevan? Roma asked, puzzled by his behavior. The children's idea of fun and so thoughtless was so thoughtless at times. Sometimes what seemed like innocent fun could have drastic consequences if ignored. Sighing, Roma turned and walked down the staircase to the first floor where the culprit stood amidst a group of boys laughing. Jeevan, please unknot Shreyas's tie right now, she requested politely. Yes, Neha, we can go to the next little. He peered at the multiple knots and grimaced. It's not possible. The knots have to be cut. If Shreyas has no problem wearing half a tie, I can oblige, he answered, to the foolish laughter of his friends. Okay, give me your tie. Once you unknot this one, you can take yours back from me, Roma said, holding out her hand for the tie, her posture showing her firm, non-negotiable determination. What did I do? Jeevan asked plaintively, a question Roma had heard innumerable times in the past 6 months. After committing the most atrocious misdeeds, they innocently asked, what have I done? Or why me? Roma held out her hand and asked for the tie again, looking stern and not open to any settlement. To Roma's surprise, Jeevan scooted off, accompanied by the silly laughter of his friends. Roma had learned that students laugh at anything and everything, anywhere, at any time, even in class. Teacher often took their unsolicited merriment personally. Get out of the class since you find either the lesson or me so funny. In the past 6 months, Roma had learned not to lose her temper at such routine situations. She now knew that some students got so easily bored that they invented such entertainment to break classroom monotony. Though she understood the reasons behind schoolroom mischief, she knew it had to be dealt with smartly and calmly. After Jeevan ran downstairs, a crowd gathered laughing at Shreyas, still holding his forlorn looking tie. He has gone, Miss Roma. He will never admit he did this, and I will be punished again. His friends will vouch he didn't do anything, Shreyas said. Loser, Shreyas, came from someone in the crowd. Is there a problem, Miss Roma? Enquired Miss Henkel on her usual morning rounds. Miss Henkel had noticed a crowd in the corridor and a muted sense of chaos. No, Miss Henkel, there's no problem at all, Roma said, suppressing her amusement as she saw the students behind them disappear at record speed. Though strict disciplinarians are dreaded, their mere presence solves the worst problems. They don't even have to raise their voice or lift a finger. That's good then, Miss Henkel said, walking away with a suspicious look at Roma and the suddenly empty corridor. Okay, so we'll stop here, but मैं चाहूंगी कि आप लोग इस सेंटेंस को देखें यहाँ पे, जहां रोमा कहती है कि बच्चे हमेशा अपने बीच में कुछ न कुछ मस्ती करते हैं और अपने ही बीच में उनके जोक्स होते हैं और वो हंसते भी हैं, लेकिन अक्सर बड़ों को, टीचर्स को, पेरेंट्स को लगता है कि वो शायद हमारे ही बारे में कुछ बोल रहे हैं या हमारा ही मजाक उड़ाकर हंस रहे हैं, और अक्सर हम उन्हें इस बात को लेकर डांट देते हैं ये सोच के कि वो हमें इंसल्ट कर रहे हैं। लेकिन रोमा ने अभी अपने तजुर्बे में सीखा कि ये सही नहीं है कि बच्चे आपके ही बारे में कुछ कह के हंस रहे हैं। अक्सर ऐसा पाया गया है कि बच्चों के बीच में अपनी ही कुछ जोक्स हैं, अपना ही कुछ होता रहता है, जिसको लेके वो अपने ही बीच में ये सब हंसी मजाक करते हैं, अपने आप को एंटरटेन करके रखते हैं। क्योंकि कई बार ऐसा होता है कि क्लास में जो टीचर पढ़ा रही है वो उनको बोरिंग लग रहा है, वो इनको उनको चैलेंजिंग नहीं लग रहा है, और वो सोचते हैं कि अपने आप को वो किस तरह से बिजी रख सकते हैं या एंटरटेन कर सकते हैं, इसीलिए ये चीजें होती है। लेकिन अगर कोई टीचर सही मायने में बच्चों को इस तरह से पढ़ाए कि उनका दिल उसमें लगे, उनको थोड़ा चैलेंज लगे, क्योंकि हमारे क्लास में अगर हम देखें तो नॉर्मल तौर पे हमारे 3 लेवल्स के बच्चे होते हैं जो बिल्कुल ही अबव एवरेज होते हैं, ज्यादातर बच्चे एवरेज स्तर के होते हैं, और कुछ बच्चे होते हैं जो बिलो एवरेज स्तर के होते हैं। और जो एक नॉर्मल टीचर होता है वो हमेशा इसी तरह से पढ़ाता है कि जो एवरेज स्तर के ज्यादातर बच्चे हैं, जो ज्यादा परसेंटेज ऑफ बच्चे हैं क्लास में, उन्हीं के लिए क्लास का लेसन प्रिपेयर करके जाते हैं। तो जो अबव एवरेज है उनको कोई चैलेंज नहीं मिलता है, और जो बिलो एवरेज हैं उनको कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है। तो जो अबव एवरेज और बिलो एवरेज, ये दोनों स्तर के जो बच्चे हैं वो बोर होने लगते हैं क्लास में। वो ही बच्चे होते हैं, और जो जितना होशियार होता है वो उतना ज्यादा बदमाशी, अलग अलग तरीके के बदमाशी सोच सकता है। तो ये एक बड़ी सीख है हम टीचर्स के लिए कि हम अपने क्लास को किस तरह से मैनेज करें, किस तरह से हम जो ज्यादा होशियार बच्चे हैं उनके लिए हम क्या काम प्रिपेयर कर सके, और जो कम होशियार हैं, जो कम कर समझ पा रहे हैं, उनको भी हम कैसे एंगेज रख सकें क्लास में। इनके बारे में सोचना बहुत ही आवश्यक है हम लोगों के लिए। इट इज वेरी वेरी एसेंशियल दैट वी थिंक अबाउट ऑल द लेवल्स। इसे आजकल बहुत सारे आपने भी देखा होगा, वर्कशॉप्स भी होने लगे हैं। डिफरेंशिएटेड एजुकेशन, डिफरेंशिएटेड टीचिंग एंड लर्निंग, इसका मतलब है कि हम अपने पढ़ाई का जो पढ़ाने का जो तरीका है उसको गौर से देखें, उसको गौर से इस तरह से इंस्पेक्ट करें कि उसमें हम हमेशा कुछ चैलेंजिंग सिचुएशंस भी डालें और कुछ ऐसे भी सिचुएशंस रखें जिससे कि कम जो अपेक्षा वाले बच्चे हैं उनके स्तर के भी हों। तो अगर हम सीबीएसई के लिए या अगर हम एग्जामिनेशन के लिए कोई भी पेपर बनाते हैं तो हमेशा हमसे कहा जाता है कि एक बैलेंस्ड पेपर होना चाहिए। बैलेंस्ड पेपर का मतलब ही ये होता है कि जो एवरेज बच्चे हैं वो ज्यादा से ज्यादा आंसर कर पाए, जो अबव एवरेज है वो एवरेज प्लस अबव एवरेज के जो क्वेश्चंस है उनको भी आंसर कर पाए, और पेपर इस तरह से बैलेंस्ड हो कि एटलीस्ट 30 से 40% तो ऐसा हो जिसे बहुत ही निम्न स्तर के बच्चे भी अटेम्प्ट कर सकें। तो ये सारी जो चीजें हैं हम इस मामूली सी घटना से हम इसमें से सीख सकते हैं। इसी को अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं रीडिंग बिटवीन द लाइंस, जो लिखा गया है उसके बीच में से और मतलब निकालना। तो हमने देखा कि रोमा या इस किताब की जो लेखिका है इसने कहीं हमें कहीं पे भाषण नहीं दिया, कहीं ये नहीं सिखाया कि इसलिए मैं आपको कह रही हूं करके। उन्होंने सिर्फ इंसिडेंट बताया, रोमा को सोचते हुए दर्शाया कि इस तरह की सोच होनी चाहिए, और हमें एक मैसेज दिया कि हमको टीचर होने के नाते किस तरह से क्लासरूम का प्रेपरेशन करना चाहिए और किस तरह से बच्चों की मानसिकता को समझना चाहिए। तो आप लोग, मैं अर्ज करूंगी कि आप लोग फिर से इस चैप्टर के बारे में सोचें, रिफ्लेक्ट करें, और कुछ और भी रिफ्लेक्शंस आए हमारे पास तो हमें लगेगा कि हम जो यहाँ पे समय बिता रहे हैं वो किसी काम का है। Right? Thank you so much. Thank you, Sneha, and everyone who has gathered here. We were reading Wanted Last Ranker, Wanted Backbencher, Last Ranker Teacher, and we hope to carry on with this book the next week. After that, we will start a new book. It is called Educated by a writer called Tara Westover. And it's a book about a girl who grew up in the rural side of America, how she didn't go to school in the beginning of her life and finally went to university. What took her to the university? I'm just reading the book slowly and steadily, and it seems to be very, very interesting. So we will urge you to look it up. It's called Educated by Tara Westover, and I will request Neha to put up the name on the WhatsApp chat group. You can go through it, and we will also put up a summary for you to read. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.